come on, girls, step up. Come on, let's be who we're supposed to be. We've gone into the expectant world of, I have to be a mom, I have to be a wife. We lost sight of really who we are as women. We're not giving ourselves space and time to do anything. And the greatest gift that we can give anybody is our time. So why are we not giving it to ourselves?
Breaking free of what's been holding you back can be found in these easy steps. Today, I have a special guest who's been on numerous shows, from Jimmy Kimmel Live to Merv Griffin, Oprah Winfrey, and numerous other morning shows like The Today Show. She's phenomenal. You've seen her here before. And I'm thrilled to welcome her back once again to talk about her vast knowledge of energy healing and how anyone can use her simple steps on how to release energy blockages that you may have been carrying around for years. Welcome to the show, the world's #1 psychic medium, Lisa Williams. Welcome back, everyone. We're here once again at Jill Collins Connections. I am so excited to have Lisa Williams with us today. She is incredible. She's a dear friend, a psychic medium, the #1 psychic medium in the world. But more than that, she's actually an expert at talking about and sharing with us energy healing and how we heal ourselves. So we're going to dive right in. Lisa, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
Oh my God, Jill, thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So, it's been a while, and we talked about, what happens when you die in our last interview. But today I really wanted to dive in more about what you're focusing on now with everyone is energy healing. And, it's how do we heal ourselves? You said, I saw a recent post that you did where you were talking about healing, and you said it's really an inside job. Tell us about that. How do we heal ourselves?
So it is an inside job. I love that because I actually work with someone, we say, it's an inside job. It's an inside job because it truly is. And so, if we look at our body, I like to say is like a 2-year-old. It wants to have a tantrum. So whenever a disease hits us, it's like that 2-year-old acting out like, I've got emotion that's trapped in here, or I can't express something. And what we forget is that there's an emotional part of us. And a lot of the times, and there's so much evidence and so much science on this, is a lot of the times we are neglecting some real deeper connections. Often it's emotional, often it is maybe our dentistry. It could be things that have happened to us. But one of the main causes, and I've worked with many people, and including my own journey with cancer, is that it's a lot of emotional stuff. And we have to dig deep to really connect into that inside space, into that real emotional place, to start uncovering and unraveling. We can do what I call that spiritual drive-by and say, hey, you know what? I'm okay. When someone asks you, how are you? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay. But really there's some trauma that's happened. What we're so used to doing, especially being English, is we're not used to dealing with it. And that's when your body acts out like that 2-year-old saying, hey, you haven't dealt with me. Hey, you haven't dealt with me. So of course it comes out in any form of dis-ease. And that's what we're starting to realize in life.
And so that is something that's, we do see that a lot. I think we're becoming more aware that when we have physical ailments, they're not just physical ailments. They're a byproduct of something that's going on energetically for us. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the root cause. Yeah, there's such that root cause, and we're neglecting it because we're so busy in life. We're so busy in, I've got to answer this email. I've got to answer that text message. I've got to be here. I've got an expectation to go there. And we're actually forgetting us.
Mm-hmm. We always put ourselves last. So what blocks us in that way? We talk about energy blockages. What are they, and how do they affect us in our daily lives?
The energy blocks are, they're everywhere. If I work with somebody and I work around their aura and I work in their body, I can go, oh, if I was working around, I'd be like, oh, Jill, what's going on here? Oh, you've got this, you've been thinking about that. Like, oh my God, how did you know that? But it's because your body speaks, your energy, your vibration. We all have this aura around us. And it's really connected to our soul. And what we're doing is we're not allowing the energy to flow through us. It's like water. Imagine water like a just a stream. And if you've got, let's say, a I don't know, a tree pass, or you've got a block, or you've got some form of stones, the energy has to find its own way around. But if it constantly gets blocked and blocked and blocked, or something happens, then the river, the water can't go any further. And that's when we actually start having these energy blocks. And it happens a lot with women around their heart chakra. It happens a lot with women. And there was this big movement, Barbara Streisand was part of it, on heart disease for women. And that's actually because, in my belief, that all of these women have been like, let's be men, let's be men, let's be strong. But what they're doing is they're closing their heart energy down, they're closing their energy down, and the energy's been blocked. And what we actually have to do is open ourselves up, empower ourselves. As women, we have to come together. And that's, and when we're starting to open up the energy, it starts to flow. You and I both know Dr. Tennant and obviously his work, and he talks about polarities being flipped. But this is exactly the same concept. It's what we've done is we've closed ourselves down, we've protected ourselves, we've gotten into relationships with hurt. And then when we open ourselves up into a space of vulnerability, but with confidence, what we're doing is we're stepping forward and we're allowing ourselves to be seen. And therefore, oh, guess what? Our heart is not impacted anymore. Wow. And it's actually, this is old science, Jill. We could say that wow, there's new testing, but this goes back to, it goes back to the time of man. How else did people heal? But they were healing themselves from the land, from herbs, from, plants, from the rain, from the sun, from all of those things. And what we're doing is we're just taking ancient techniques and bringing them into modern day.
Okay. So really, when you say opening your heart in a vulnerable way, when we're in a relationship, because we all have traumas and we all have triggers, is it, we obviously we're going to experience some discomfort sometimes. And so there's blockages. So how do we feel? Is it speaking our truth? Is it feeling it? How do we open that up and clear that out for ourselves, that we can still be in a relationship and not get triggered and feel that true openness of our heart and have that vulnerability where we feel safe and we feel heard?
So I always like to use this analogy that we are healed until we're triggered. We're all healed until we are triggered. And it's in that place of when we are healed, when we come up and we're like, yeah, everything's fine, then you get that trigger. And that's that little pushback. That's that body saying, hello, you haven't finished with me. And instead of reacting to maybe what happened, it's actually going back into that inner core space and journaling. There's so much science to show that journaling can actually increase your immune system and can help overcome blockages that we are now seeing massive healing happening from people who are understanding. And it happened with a client of mine recently, stage 4 cancer, breast cancer, for her 3rd time. She's had double mastectomy. And so she had 5 lesions on her lungs this time, in her, it was so close to in her breastbone that was like lungs. And we worked with her. We did a lot of deep trauma work, a lot of journaling, a lot of really connecting with her body. What is the body telling her? What does she want? She realized it was all old stuff. She journaled through it. She spoke her truth. She stood up. She started standing up to her husband. She's like, I don't care. This is what I need. And if you don't want to do this, then we're okay to divorce. And I'm like, wow. And after 6 months, she got diagnosed with no evidence of disease in her body. And it was remarkable. But she did the work. And listen, Jill, it's not easy. You've been diagnosed with like whatever it is. And now you're like, oh, I've got to deal with my own trauma. I get it. But what do you want to do? Do you want to deal with the trauma and work through it and show up and with an open heart, be vulnerable, but know your boundaries? And that's where that goes back to your question. I know my boundaries. Or do I want to fight this disease that could eventually kill me? And I think that's what we have to, it's all balance here. It's all looking at reality.
Well, that's fascinating because it is about boundaries and the fact that your client within 6 months had a clean bill of health after all of that. I mean, just significant. And it really was sparked from recognizing and seeing the blockages and then working on them.
Yeah.
And journaling. I didn't know that about journaling. That's really fascinating. What
Yes.
would someone do? Something specifically with journaling? How would that look? What do you journal about?
So, gosh, you could journal about anything. I mean, I always say to people, you journal twice a day, okay? Because certainly in the day, certainly in the morning, we talk about meditation. What we want to do is we want to get into a state of quantum. We want to get into the state of scalar energy, which is universal knowledge. When we get into the quantum energy and we're really deep into that meditation, what we're actually doing is we're pulling ourselves away from the body. And so when we're pulling ourselves away from the body then allows ourselves to heal through energy that we're pulling from the universal knowledge. Now, what we're doing is then when we follow that with journaling, so we go into meditation, we follow it with journaling, then there's a point of, wow, you're going to get hits, you're going to get universal knowledge, you're going to get this moment of aha moments. And that's where the beauty comes in. That's where you're like, oh, wow, why did that, car accident when I was 3 years old come up? Or why did that potential dog bite, come up? And there's a thread. You know how they say that the drops of breadcrumbs. So what we do is we look at this thread of information, and then I say journal on what came up out of that meditation. And so what we're doing is we're releasing the energy. And a lot of people are so used to typing now. I don't know about you, Jill, but I actually type faster than I can write.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But the thing is, there's processes in the brain that show that when we're typing, we're not actually thinking about anything that was coming through us. So when we're slowing the actual energy down and we're writing, and sometimes we're writing really fast and we get really angry and there's emotion and it all comes out. What actually is happening, it's this brain process that of you writing will actually start the healing, because you're slowing it down and you're allowing it to come through. You're no longer triggered by the amygdala, and it comes through into the hippocampus. We're making a short-term memory into a long-term memory, and then we're able to deal with it. We're actually able to process it. Our body goes, oh. And then if we sleep, sleeping has definitely been underrated, but if we go into sleep after like a heavy day or even a nap, and I always say to my clients with major health issues, please try and nap at some point in the day. Think that you're a child, because just one process of REM sleep is going to actually process that data that you have dealt with in your journaling. And so it actually heals our body. And then when they go into at night, they can then journal on, I don't know why I'm journaling. I have no idea why I'm journaling, but Lisa tells me to journal. Oh my God. This reminds me of my mom. And, all of it comes out. And you can find journal prompts. I mean, I've got a wealth of journal prompts, and if you want them, I'm quite happy to get them for you. But we write, all of a sudden it all comes out again. And then you go into that deep meditation again before you go to bed. And that deep meditation helps that process. It helps you calm everything down. And all of a sudden it gets you into alignment, and then you go to sleep. And that's when you're finding the more times that you do this, you then get into a state of heart coherence. And heart coherence is where obviously all parts of our body is working in the same vibration and the same alignment. So that's when just life happens swimmingly. And that's what we want to get into. So, there's a lot of science with heart math, and, a lot of science that is actually being done right now to prove that these simple methods work. And it's something that, I don't know about you, Jill, but when someone tells me to journal, I'm like, I don't want to journal. No, I don't want to do that. But it's actually so valuable to do it when we get so deep and we can start uncovering. And I swear that that's actually really helped me through my own relationships, my own difficult relationships. And that's probably why I have not had I guess, health issues for a very long time because I actually make time to journal, even though I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I know. Those are one of those
Mm.
disciplines that I the same as journaling is. I know how great it is, and then it's oh yeah, I can type it out. But you just really put something so special there about the slowing down the process and how necessary it is to actually write, so
Yep.
we can process. And I wrote the steps down. I'll put them in the show notes so everyone has the steps because I think that's so valuable. And then the importance of sleep and a REM cycle.
Yeah.
It's reset. It's that because our brains go to work, our subconscious goes to work rather, and it's processing what we've been doing all day or what we've been doing or working on. It heals it. It's kind of like it's resetting all the files in there and saying, okay, let's organize all this so it makes
That's
sense.
right. And I think that's the reason why there's so much anxiety in this world. You know, a lot of people are so connected to this thing, this cell phone, that they feel the need to, I've got to answer this, I've got to answer this, I've got to do this. And so what we're doing is we're creating a space of high anxiety where an expectation, especially as women, there's an expectation and there's a need to feel like we've got to be, we've got to do, we've got to, whatever it is. But reality is slowing down is the greatest healer that you can have. And when you slow down and you stop overthinking it, and there's a lot of people who say to me, yeah, but that's easier said than good. I'm like, have you tried meditating? Have you tried sitting and just being unplugged for a while, sitting and doing nothing, having days of silence? I spend a lot of time on my own, and I'm telling you, being on my own is such a gift to myself because I can be my own energy, and I have time where I sit and process with my dogs or just sit in this chair, and it's just that time of processing. It's powerful.
Oh gosh, that sounds delightful. Actually, I told before we started in the virtual green room, I told you I'm going to a Vipassana 10-day silent retreat, and I'm looking forward to that. But at the same time, that's the whole thing. It's like totally unplugging, not having access to the outside world for 10 days, and it's scary, but it just feels like my soul needs that. It's gonna be like yes, you're
It's
gonna have
gonna
an opportunity. There's no distractions, and so yeah, right. And I think we just don't do enough of that in this world
No, we
today.
don't. And actually, that's going to be so good for you. There'll be things that will crop up. I've done this. So I've done it in Thailand and with monks. And you get up at 4 a.m. and you pray and you meditate and you walk and meditate while you're eating. You meditate and there's no writing, there's no this, there's that. And literally you are processing so much. And actually, you don't realize how exhausting it is initially, but then you go through this immediate energy cycle. You will come to the end of it and you'll have these bursts of energy, and you will be like, wow, why haven't I not been doing this for all my life? And what's interesting, if we look at these countries that they do this a lot, so India does it a lot, China does it a lot, Tibetan countries, if you look at all of these countries that do this type of work and real deep spiritual work, if you look at those, and then you'll see that there's not the same disease that we have in the US. There's got to be a correlation. You can't tell me that there is no correlation here, because there definitely is.
Yeah, there's that show that I can't remember what it's called, Blue Zones or something, where everyone's talking about what people are eating, and their lifestyle. But I think that is something I'm not sure they really covered that as much. It's just so important. They talk about community and gathering together and having, space with family or close tribes and all of that. But it is, I think I think 10, 15 years ago when we didn't have these phones just all the time, where we were constantly looking at them,
Yep.
I used to read a book, and now it's like, I don't have time to read. I can listen to an audio while I'm doing something else,
I
and I'm
know.
eating at the same time, or, there's like, how many things can you possibly stack at one time to get it all done? And it's just, it doesn't serve.
No, and our brain doesn't process it well. And if we, a lot of this comes down to our brain processes, and our brain doesn't like it. What it's doing is the poor amygdala is on this constant firing up, and the limbic brain is like wanting to feel it, wants that warm and squishiness, but the thinking brain is like, oh my God, oh my God. And what we're actually doing is we're not giving ourselves space and time to do anything. And the greatest gift that we can give anybody is our time. So why are we not giving it to ourselves?
Yeah, that's so true. It's time we need to all rise up and take a moment and realize that we can't help others and be there for others to the extent that that would be ideal if we're not taking care of ourselves first.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's really great. I love that. So tell me a little bit about, I know you have a course that you're doing. I'd love to hear more about that.
So I train psychics, mediums, healers, all around the world. And obviously being a psychic medium, which I've done for 30 years now, which is insane to think about that. I realize that what psychic and mediums are doing is that this has become a very valuable industry. We are really merging the lines of mental health. So, I always say that those people who are coming to us, psychics and mediums and healers, maybe they need a therapist. And then there's those people who probably don't need a therapist, are going to the therapist when they could come to a psychic. There's all of this. It's like a real blur. And we're not therapists. And so I feel like, and it's also an industry that's not regulated, which is I'm really passionate about. So what I decided to do was to try to give some form of regulation. Now, doing this work in the public eye, and I've been very much in the public eye, and I'm very strong on the ethical values. I think what we can do is we're actually carrying someone's mental health in the palm of our hands for not just that hour that I'm working with them, but for the rest of their life. Because I can guarantee you, Jill, you probably can't remember what you had for dinner 3 days ago, but you can guarantee verbatim what a psychic said to you 20 years ago. Oh, yeah. Guaranteed. Okay. So it's going to constantly tick, 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 tick in away in your mind. And so my aim is to elevate the industry. And so what I'm doing is a certified spiritual advisor course. And what that covers is intuitives and psychics, mediums, or healers. And you can take all 3 tracks if you want, or you can just do one or the other. And it really teaches you the in-depth way, the neuroscience behind it, because obviously there's a lot of science behind it. And it's not just, oh, it's energy. There's a huge amount of scientific proven data that we have now. And just to help people become really in tune with where they want to be, even if they don't want to work as a psychic or a medium, but really to delve into that space. And so my aim is to elevate the industry. And I have like 44 master teachers around the world, and I have over 20,000 certified students. And it's what I plan on doing is to try to elevate the industry. So that's coming up, and I'm super excited about that.
I love that. I love it. I've done one of your courses on in the past, and I really loved it. And so many women I'm hearing from and talking to that, especially in midlife right now, is they're saying, as they're rediscovering themselves, reinventing, trying new things, they're tapping in and they're starting to sense that there was something that was always there. Mm-hmm. And they're like, do I have intuitive abilities? Do I have this gift? And does everyone have that gift? Or is it for everyone? Or is it something that they just don't, maybe there's energy blockages around that or mindset?
So everyone has this gift. It's our innate gift, our innate sense, that sense of feeling, that sense of knowing. And so we've all been born intuitive. And it's society that's closed us down. But it's interesting that you say that, women come into this at later life, because the majority of women that are coming through to my classes are all 40 plus. They've done their careers, they've had their children, they're starting to realize that life isn't just about making money, hard work, the grind, being in the man's world, rah, rah, rah. It's not about that. It's now about becoming more and squishy. It's now becoming more feminine. It's stepping into that vibe. It's becoming into our birthright. As women, you've heard it where people say it's mother's intuition, it's women's intuition. That's what our birthright is. We were born intuitive, we're born feeling. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of women come into this industry. I'm not, and it's probably 80% women. More men are starting to come into it, but it's so interesting. But the other part of it is mediumship was founded on women's rights. And yeah, so Susan B. Anthony, this is a little tidbit that not many people realize, is that as a woman back in the 1800s, so it's coming up, I don't know when this is going to be released, but the anniversary of mediumship is the 31st of March, 1848, which they call that modern day mediumship. I'm like, whatever. But anyway, so basically back in the 1800s, before women's rights, you could, as a woman, stand in public as long as you were channeling spirit. So you could stand up and speak in public as long as you were communicating with spirit, which not many people realize. But what they didn't realize is that it was our innate ability. It was our innate intuition that was helping us be this. And so Susan B. Anthony then, got on her bandwagon and everything else. And that's how the women's rights movement really helped mediumship. And they helped each other. It was really bizarre and crazy.
I should do a documentary on that. That's fascinating. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea. And I think that's what, like I was saying, that women are saying things like, I knew this about myself and then I lost it. So if we're born with that, what prevents us? It's obvious that a lot of things happen, but what do we lose during these years that all of a sudden we're saying, I think I have it again? And is it just like conditioning, repressing our, tell me what those possibilities are that we've spent all these years where we just said we pushed it down as we got older.
We've sometimes lost ourselves. We've lost ourselves. We've lost that. We've gone into the expectant world of, I have to be a mom, I have to be a wife, I have to be a spouse, I have to, be in the man's world, or I have to earn a living, I have to do this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of expectancy on a woman. And I've realized this. And, the amount of women that I coach in my work, I see them come through and I'm like, so tell me, why didn't you follow this through? And the constant stories I'm hearing are, well, it wasn't appropriate, or I was scared because no one would believe me because of religion. And I'm like, it's your innate birthright to be intuitive. And yet you haven't used it. And they're like, no, I have used it, but in secret. I just knew. And I'm like, this is where, that's our superpower. That's our superpower. That really just, and listen, guys are intuitive as well, but with women, we're more aware. And that's what makes us different. And I think it's just because we just slow down. But I do feel it's because why we've lost it is because we lost sight of really who we are as women. And it's people like you, people like myself, people who are very much strong women. We're now saying, come on, girls, step up. Come on, let's be who we're supposed to be.
Yeah, because there is that fear of what will people think, and so many things come across my mind about women who might be listening in midlife right now about this, is that, okay, well, that's great, but people are going to think I'm all woo-woo-y now, or how can I make a living doing it? Or even it's, am I going to be lost in something that's just so nebulous? I can, just all these different stories about it. But I think the other thought that came to mind too is that, and I just realized the sun is coming in here really bad at this point. Can't predict that. But is that at some point, I think our souls, they get a little manic, don't they? When we deny listening to our intuition, there's that little girl there's that soul, that higher self inside that's saying, no, trust me, really, we have to do this, or this has to happen, or you have to speak up. I'm working with a woman right now, coaching her, and this is what we're talking about, is this, learning to share your message. What is it, your purpose? What is your purpose? And everyone feels like there's got to be something more, but they're just so afraid. And so it's if we deny that, I know it's happened to me, and maybe some call it a dark night of the soul, but it's where at some point it's just like, I can't take it anymore. It's just, there's so much agony and so much pain for just denying the ability to honor speaking our truth, to honor our intuition, to actually take action on how we're being guided.
Yeah, so it's, and this goes back to disease as well. Let's go back to this. So, because if we are really ignoring that innate part of us, and I love that you are empowering this person to really come into their own and step into their own and listen to that inner self. If you're ignoring that inner part of you, what tends to happen is we're ignoring ourselves. We're ignoring our full alignment. We're ignoring who we are and all our beliefs. And when we're not in alignment, that's when disease happens. That's when we're really fighting against a grain. There's that old, that an old nursery rhyme, row, row, row your boat gently downstream. Okay. And it's actually used in spiritualism. And they say, row, row, row your boat gently downstream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. But it is, when you actually are rowing against the current, what you're actually doing is you're making it hard for yourself. So by ignoring this inner self, this inner child, this inner desire, this intuition, you're actually going against the grain. And that's where people might think it's woo-woo. But the thing is, with TV shows such as myself, there was John Edwards, Jane Van Praagh, Teresa Caputo, Tyler Henry, all of these people, we've made it normal. We've paved the way to be weird, and we're okay with being weird. But now it's becoming normal. And I can't tell you how often people say to me, thank you for making this normal. I'm not in tie-dye. I'm not in big hoop earrings. I'm not with a crystal ball. Oh, you're in grave danger. It's not. We're actually making it a professional standard and a professional, industry.
I think that's beautiful. And I love the way you're paving the way for that. And after, so many years of working with so many and being on so many stages and on so many shows and being discovered in the ways that you have and coming to America the way you have, it's just so incredible and it's inspiring. And I want this interview to encourage women who are thinking about this or seeing these gifts in themselves to dive a little deeper, check out your program, to find you on social. We'll have everything in the show notes, so they'll have access to you and be able to find more out about this. Because what you've taught me is that psychic mediums are not just reading or connecting just with, those who've passed on to give us messages. It's so much more than that. It's not just like reading my fortune or telling me my, what am I going to meet the man of my life, my dreams, or, whatever. It's so much more. And it's just been such a blessing for that.
It's an investment in self, I think, an investment to know who you really are at a core level.
And so we really all owe it to ourselves too, because if we're facing things like physical ailments and healing body changes, and we're feeling like we're not quite ourselves, a lot of times we talk about things like hormones and, and menopause and other issues, but there's energy blockages. And this is something that this can really be a life-changing experience without having to do. It's a multitude. It's a whole thing. But this is a whole nother side that I think we haven't really talked about enough, and I think we need to do more of it. So, well, tell me more about how can someone actually start to heal blockages on their own? You said with the journaling and all of that. Is that an option, or do you find it in community or in working with a medium? And how does that work? What are the best ways to do?
All of the above. All of the above. So I think community is one of the things that we don't have enough of, especially we went into isolation a couple of years ago. And so what we're noticing now that we're coming out of isolation and we were coming out of that is that people are becoming more and more diseased. And that is because it's caused mental health. It's caused a lot of problems. And with mental health, as we know, it's caused trauma into the body. Now, as we look at all of this, what we have to do is we have to say, what is right for me? And it goes back into intuition. It's actually sitting and listening to the body. It's like, okay, so you've got a pain in the knee. So let's reconnect to the knee. What we forget is we forget this. You have to go from here through the heart to the knee. And so we're forgetting to speak to our knee. I know it sounds really bizarre. Some people might be going, oh gosh, it's whatever. But if you really connect deeply into the knee and you start to really connect in and speak to the knee like it's a little child. I know it sounds so bizarre, but it so works. The knee's going to be like, wow, and it will give you a memory, or it will take you to a place, and it will start giving you information. And you'll be like, wow, so my knee hurts because I'm afraid to move forward. And then you can go, huh, so if I'm afraid to move forward, what am I afraid of? And immediately we go into our head. So let's work on the ancient medicine wheel. When we're so in our mind and we're so in our head, we have to literally drop into our heart. And when we're so in spirit, we drop into our body. And we can do it all sorts of different ways. But the ancient medicine wheel says that when you're so in your mind, you're like, yes, but I've got this. Drop into your heart with some gratitude. We're alive. Let's breathe. But if you're so in spirit, we drop into the body to ground ourselves, or we can drop from the mind into the body. And so speak to the knee. The knee is going to say, hey, you haven't heard me. Hey, I've got fear. So immediately, you might go, yeah, but fear. What am I fearful of? We'll drop into the body and to the heart and say, okay, so I appreciate my fear. And then start to unravel what the fear is. Speak to the fear, find out what the fear is, find out where it's come from, journal on it. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I have fear of moving forward and being a failure. Okay, so now I can see my failure. What is the failure? And your brain is starting to process it. Your amygdala is no longer firing off on all cylinders and making you run away and hide and then just be stuck. Your hippocampus is like, can turn that into a memory and go, but look at all the things that you have accomplished. Look at all the things that you haven't failed with. And then all of a sudden, wow, you're starting to heal. And it's a process, but it's so powerful.
I can see that because I've done that work in other areas. And it's fascinating when you start to talk to your body and ask it, what do you need? What do you need? And specifically a body part that may be ailing. That's fascinating. I love that because it will tell you, but you've got to sit long enough and you can't be multitasking.
You can't be on the phone.
We got to put the phones away and then turn everything off too, right? No distractions. Is that it will speak. It will show up.
Yeah.
There's something about when it's almost like, to me, it's like a child that is throwing a tantrum. If we wait long enough and don't listen, it will get worse. That was, I was saying, the manic thing at some point is that we get a little crazy because we're not paying attention to it.
That's right.
When we do, it settles down and there's calm. It's that parasympathetic nervous system. It just kind of, okay, all right, I heard you heard me, you're seen, heard, understood. All right, now I can chill and hang out and okay, we're good. And it just, it really is it's, I think we just can end so much suffering by taking time to tap in like that.
Yeah. And we're so reactive as a society. I mean, we are so reactive. It's unbelievable. And my husband's military. And of course, he's like strong, rah, rah. But in my mind, what I'm also seeing from his standard and his work is that there's no reaction. There's actually a let's process, let's wait, and let's see what actually does happen. And it's very interesting. And so even the military are not reacting where we expect them to jump in and react. There's a lot of space. So I certainly see it with him, and he complains about it a lot because he's old school military. But I see him even sitting back and then going, oh, now I'm seeing things differently. Oh, look at that. And so it's interesting how it's actually happening in all our society. We've just got to learn to slow down.
I learned to slow down. Well, can you tell me, I want to go back to your story a little bit. Is when did you actually realize that you had this unique gift to help and to serve others? And um, what was the journey for self-discovery for you? Like, how did that go? How did you know this? I think people would be really interested.
Oh, wow. So when I was a child, I wanted to be a nun. All right. So, I'm like, I wasn't even Catholic. Okay. So, I mean, really, where did that come from? Yeah, I was 7 years old, but my grandmother had been a medium for a very long time. And I always knew I wanted to serve. Always knew I had a purpose. I always knew something was a little bit different. And, I've been seeing spirit, but I didn't know what it was. But then I started to delve into it sort of like as I got as a teenager, and I started playing with some tarot cards, and, oracle cards weren't quite around then, but I definitely played with some tarot cards. And, I messed around with some energy, and my grandmother was like, "You're going to follow my gift." And I'm like, "I don't speak to dead people," and, all of that. But I was playing with it. So from the age of 19, I've been playing and playing, but really from a very young age. But then I was a single mom, and I just discovered that I knew things. And so I just needed a little bit of extra cash. So I started to do readings. And then before I knew it, I read for a really well-known singer. And he brought me to LA, and I met Merv Griffin, not through him, but through a series of events. And then I was working as a psychic medium, and I thought, my dad kept saying to me, "When are you going to get a proper job? When are you going to get a proper job?" And I'm like, this is my proper job, Dad, But what happened is I also realized that I could be a psychic medium without being spiritual. I could be a psychic medium without doing my work. But what was happening is it was making me sick. And so I got cancer, and I had all of these health issues. And I realized that I really needed to do the work. And so myself shifted about 18 years ago. I shifted into just listening to my body, and listening and starting meditating, and starting going on these retreats and these pilgrimages, and just really kind of getting to know who I was at the core. And certainly as I've gotten older, my spiritual work has changed. But I think really, what started off as, I think, a little bit of fun, a little party trick, and a little bit of extra income became a real serious part of my life, and one that I dedicated my life to. But I also realized there was more to it. I had to do the work.
You had to do the work, and I think that's what you're doing with helping others to really legitimize the industry, which is beautiful because
Yeah.
you've seen the importance of that.
Mhm.
Wow. So as you're working with someone, because I know we've done a lot of like hospice work and other things too, and helping people pass on with the families as they pass to the next life, is how do you take care of yourself and still maintain your own energy and well-being? Is there something, because I think it's like you said, a lot of times we always help each other, and you've done that and you've seen this progression. This is kind of, but it's how do you stay grounded and still able to serve?
It's a really good question. And my husband will always tell you, "Oh, she's a workaholic. She's a workaholic." But the one thing that I actually have now done is create boundaries. And I won't be at my desk after a certain time at night. I don't want to talk energy or healing. If I'm having dinner with someone, people will say to me, "Let's have dinner and let's talk about spirits." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's my job." So there has to be a definition. I have to, I have dogs that I have senior dogs that I, go out for a walk. I ride a motorcycle. So I get out on my bike, and I spend time doing things that I want. I'm super musical. So I play the piano, and I really do just take time. And because I can't give from an empty cup. When I am depleted, how am I going to serve and do the right thing? So it is finding balance. And again, it goes back to, as women, we feel the need to constantly help, but sometimes I have to say no. And that no is a powerful word for me to then say, "I'm looking after me. And when I'm okay, then I can give to you." And when people actually, when you share that with people, people actually get it.
Mm, I agree. I agree. They do get it, because I think we do this sometimes, is there's so much disconnectivity that we're, we feel like I do this myself. I mean, I can sit in front of the computer and before I know it's 8 p.m. and I'm still working and I'm like, oh, I should eat something, and I admire you and your discipline, not discipline, I guess, but it's just the boundaries, like you said, so much that I think it occurred to me this morning is um, how you show up in such a way. There's structure, and yet it's feminine flow and feminine energy, and it's
Mm-hmm.
you exemplify such a perfect balance of that. In that, a lot of times we can get so much in our feminine side, and we're just like, oh, well, everything's going to be fine, and then there's no structure, and we don't show up on time, and things don't happen. We don't follow through on projects, and you do that. And you're successful for a reason, and it's that, and also just your gifts, and that you've really done the work, as you said. And I think that's just such a great example that we can all learn from, is how to still be in the state of leaning in, trusting, listening to our intuition, and yet having those boundaries and having those things that guidelines. So how do you
Yeah.
manage that with your business? Because I know your business has evolved over the years, and you've done talk about that for a minute, because I think that's fascinating. So many people wanting to figure out something new as they reinvent themselves, and what can I do that isn't just like a hobby, or that I can actually really create some structure around.
Yeah, so and I appreciate that. Thank you, Jill. It's been definitely a journey, because I was very much in my masculine at one point, and it was like rah 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 rah, let's go, push push push, and I realized it wasn't serving me, and I realized that I just had to allow things to evolve and flow, and to just be in that beauty space, being if things weren't supposed to work, it's not going to work. And I think when it comes to women, and stepping into maybe a new career, we immediately go to hurt. I'm going to get hurt. I can't trust. How do I do this? I'm not, they've had to be high achievers. How can I achieve? And I always say, one of my greatest gifts, and I recognize this in myself, is that I make people feel safe. And I always say to people in my classes, I need you to screw up here with me, because then I can help you. Because if you are coming to me perfect, then why are you coming? Because I'm going to show you my flaws. I want you to show me your flaws, because that's where the power really is. And when we can come in and be our truest vulnerable self, and we can screw up, then I can now help you. But I'm creating a safe environment. And I think that's what's important in my business, is I've created structure. I'm not afraid to say I've screwed up. I'm not afraid to reinvent myself at any point, and realize and recognize that this may not be working, but hey, I'm going to try it. And the only thing that can hurt me is me not trying and me regretting it. And
Mm.
that's something that my grandfather taught me for a very long time. He said, Lisa, never regret anything. Always say yes, and you'll never regret it. You shouldn't live life with full of regrets.
Gosh, I love that. That's really opening it up to where we're not limiting ourselves. It's amazing. It something occurs to me that as you were talking about this, and how we often, I think it just in such this way, like, can you explain to me how this looks when you're going through this process with someone in this work, as you're, what is it like today? What does it look like when you're working with a client and you're helping them with energy blockages? How does that look? Because this is just, it's just, I just love to hear the process in a different way.
So, first of all, they're coming to me for a reason. They're coming to me because they've realized something is happening. So the reason why people come to me is because either the medical profession have failed them, they have been everywhere that they are struggling, or that they've been recommended. And I am the one, probably the last resort. I really am. And it's because I can give them hope. I am not here to give them anything other than hope, but I'm also not giving them false hope. And in that space of lack of hope, I then create a safe space. Hence why I do so much work in hospice. And so, what I'm here to do is listen. and I'm listening to a story. And what tends to happen is when someone has been diagnosed with an illness, let's just take the classic case of someone's been diagnosed with cancer. And what happens is they immediately are in their head, I've been diagnosed with this, I'm on this drug, and they get into that, all they are is laser pointed, laser focused on this one thing, because that's what the traditional doctors have told them. And I'm not really caring about that. I'm like, okay, so tell me how you are. And I want to find out who they are. And often there's this tug of war. All right. So the client comes in with the tug of war, but what you're failing to see, Lisa, is I've been diagnosed with a disease. I'm like, I know that, but let's talk about you. And what they don't realize, and I always say, you've got to give me a month. Let me work with you for a month. And in that period of time, in a month, you're going to see yourself feeling better. And I had a woman, I was working with her autoimmune disease, long COVID, eczema everywhere, all of this, couldn't breathe, allergies, you name it. And I said, give me a month. And she's very heady. I went, I want to know what you're watching, what you're spending your time doing. And I wanted to see a diary, a journal. And I saw her journal. I watched this TV show, this thing. I read this podcast, I watched this podcast, had this news article. And I went, have you noticed how you're surrounding yourself with toxicity here? You know, you're watching the news, you're in a political thing. All of this is toxicity. And I said, how can you heal while you're still enraged from within by what you're watching on an external level? And she went, huh. And then she talked about her sleep, and I was looking at her, circadian rhythm. And as we were talking about the circadian rhythm, then I'm noticing this cross correlation, and I'm seeing all of this stuff, and I'm like, oh, wow. And then suddenly, after 4 weeks, her eczema cleared up. She didn't have a headache. She wasn't getting migraines anymore. And then I worked very quickly. I could work in, and I tapped in last night because I work with her now. And I'm like, oh, she's got a big energy block in her head here. And I could feel it. And as I tapped in and I was starting to move it on the quantum, which is scalar energy, universal energy, it's, the cosmos. When I was pulling it, helping it move, I went, oh, this is her ex-boyfriend. So I messaged her and I said, hey, by any chance have you been thinking about your ex-boyfriend? As he popped up, and she said, funny you should say that. I was getting really disheartened, and I made a pact that if I wasn't married or on the way to getting married this year, I would go back to him and marry him. I'm like, are you kidding me? You've got this massive energy block here. And she said, wow, this was my constant thought today. And I just had to move it. And so, proof is in the actual work. But because it's, big pharma and, the likes of obviously just Western medicine, it's like doctor, drug, take this, take that. Let's try this, let's try that. People are losing the techniques of, let's come into the real energy where your body will rejuvenate itself within 365 days. We are constantly using the earth, the sun, the universe around us that can heal our body. When was the last time that you actually lay on the grass and put your belly on the grass, on the ground? When was the last time that you ate real food and you're not eating processed stuff? And suddenly, she came here and we did a big healing retreat for a weekend in my house, because my house is nicknamed the Healing House. And I put her in my healing room. I worked with her, and her periods are regulated. Her migraines have gone, her eczema's gone, her eating's back to normal. And she's not done anything different except for the energy work.
My gosh. And this is where there's the example of your work and how this helps with energy blockages. The fact that you could see that and you were able to tap in and correct that. Yeah. And that's, I think there's that, yes, can we heal our own blockages by journaling and doing these things that you mentioned earlier? but there's this, that's the level up. That's the thing. That's the secret sauce. That really is something we can't even see all the time and tap into, that we need guidance. And we need to have someone like you that can actually can help us move that energy through that
Mhm.
maybe stopping us.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
from
all I'm doing is bringing awareness. I'm bringing awareness into, what are you thinking about? What are you spending your time, occupying your time with? What reels are you watching? I have a client in Australia who is, she'll watch these reels and I'm like, it's all negative. It's all conspiracy theories and this. And I went, stop. You're feeding your own disease. You're feeding it. And it's all up here. And, we have to really recondition ourselves. And listen, we can't just think the world is happy and rosy and, all of that. But what we have to do is we really, truly have to say, how are we showing up in life and what are we putting our energy in? Because it's a simple law of manifestation. Where our attention goes, the energy flows.
Gosh, yeah. So what are some alternatives if for someone, when you're saying, okay, let's check it, what you're watching, your reels? What do you suggest people if they say, I like to watch, what could I look at on YouTube? What could I look at other than this podcast? Subscribe. Is that, what can they be watching that would actually help shift that? Is it being meditation more? Because a lot of times people say, well, yes, it's meditating, but I still have to kind of have that downtime. I need something to kind of watch.
Oh
What do
my
you,
God, Jill.
you know what I mean?
You
Like, let's get real,
you have no idea how much I get into my little game and I'm playing my little game, all of those things. We have to. But what are we spending our time? Are you watching Desperate Housewives or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because you want the downtime and it's mind numbing and it's on? Or are you really investing in their lives and getting really wound up in it? Because if you're finding that you're getting really wound up and you're on the bandwagon, you're like, oh my God, and that's when it's hitting your body. But if you're watching it as it's on, well, look at that drama. Oh my God, it's made me appreciate my relationship more. Then that's a whole different thing. It's really discerning how much you're getting involved and how much you're noticing your body becoming very, how your breathing becomes, how your rhythm of your own natural breath becomes. And I noticed it, when I was playing these games that were time crunch games, like, oh my God, I have to beat this, da, 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 da. And I was noticing I was raising my cortisol level up, like spiking. And I realized this was not doing me any good. I actually had to find a game that I could play, switch my mind off, that was not time related, not time constricted or anything, because that's my stressor. And so it's really discerning what's right for you, whether it is you watching fluffy bunnies, I don't know, or dogs snoring, or is that going to wind you up? Or if you do get into the whole conspiracy theory, can you look at it and go, oh yeah, and find balance? Or is it going to wind you up and start you down the rabbit hole?
I see. Yeah,
And it's
that need to do
learning.
something, or that need to probably almost like you feel like there's that feeling of helplessness. And you talked about body. I know that we can, it's so important that we can recognize in our body when we feel changes, when we feel that tension,
Yeah.
that resistance, that, they always talk about, when people doom scroll or scroll on Instagram and they're looking at different things, and all of a sudden where there's a feeling of jealousy or of, I should have done that by now. For me, it's like, that's a really good funnel. I should probably do, what I mean? It's just something like that. It's like, I should post, that's a really good post. I should do a post like that. And then it's all of a sudden, I can tell that I was in a state of bliss or feeling good. And all of a sudden I saw my feelings change. And I went, wait, what just happened? And I observed myself and I say, what did you just look at? What just happened there? Okay. Oh, you were, okay. So we need to not do that. That's not good. And then it's really, what do I need to see, or what do I need to replace that with, that's going to put me at my highest state of self, is not, because sometimes we don't always feel like we want to go into the meditation or do something, but it's that, what is going to be free? Like you said, it's not going to shift and alter my state.
So
Eventually rise it up.
Yeah, but you know, we actually have to look at it. We have to look at what is going to shift that state, what is going to cause us that anxiety. And I love what you said, you're recognizing it. And one of the things that I did, Jill, and I think I don't know, I actually took social media off my main phone. I took social media off and I said, I'm done. And I have two phones now, work and my personal, and I have social media on my work, and that's the only one I go on social media with. But the other part of it is I also stopped following anybody in my industry. So, how the algorithms are like, oh my God, psychics, da, da, da. And so all of a sudden I'm bombarded. If I have anything on my social media, on my personal page, anything to do with psychic medium energy work, I delete it and I say, this ad is not right for me, because I don't want to see it. I don't want to feel that competition. What I want to do is I want to, I'm scrolling mindlessly. I want to see a fluffy bunny. I want to see dog snoring. I want to see a pit bull's face, like licking the owner. I want to see that. I don't want to see what someone's doing in my industry at 10 o'clock at night when I'm trying to switch myself down, because what that's doing is it's triggering everything off and I'm not going to sleep.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I know you told me about that. You've been doing that for a while now, where you took all your social media off of your personal phone. And I love that. And yet it's also being proactive. It's like, to me, going through and the emails that come through, that's stressful to me. It's like, how do I get 100 emails a day? And it's okay, time to unsubscribe. And so now I'm on a kick where every time something comes through, it's unsubscribe, or even the ad's not for me, because it is so, at first I was thinking, oh, it's really good to see what other people are doing. But then it's just constantly this like background noise reminder of what I'm not doing that maybe I should be feeling like I should be doing.
Yep.
And it's just running in the background. And there's so many little things like that happen to us every day that we're not even noticing. I think being aware and just feeling that shift in the body and the change and how we can just shift from feeling like everything's okay to all of a sudden, like I said earlier, that just like, whoa, I just suddenly don't feel great. What happened? And I think going unnoticed, as you said, for long periods of time can actually affect us. And so I think it's really important, that we do that.
I want to speak to that, what you did, just a moment, just very quickly. What we do is, how can we be a trailblazer in our industry if we're copying what everybody else is doing all the time?
Oh, yeah.
And what we're not doing is giving ourselves creativity, the space for creativity to see a new pathway ahead. That's how I looked at it.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. That's where the true creator is. It is, isn't it? And there's so much pressure of all these, hey, do it my way because it works, and you got to try it this way. And oh my God, this person's amazing. You've got to follow them. It never ends. Well, let me ask you another question about, are there any risks associated, and should we be cautious about anything as we're trying to heal our own energy blocks, especially for those getting started? Things we need to be mindful of.
I think risks is a good question. We always have to, I think really, if you can discern and listen to your own intuition, you're never really going to find a risk. I always say one of the things is look at Western medicine, look at, alternative medicine, and combine them. If it works to combine them, then fantastic. It works for you, but it has to really sit deep within our soul, really sit really within us. And whether we're healing from a past relationship or grief of a loved one, or we're healing from a disease that has manifested in our body, whatever it is, you have to listen to yourself. And the only risk is not listening to your own intuition. And if you go against that, then you're going against what your whole body wants.
That's so true. I love that. That's a great way to wrap this up. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you feel like we need to share?
I feel like you've really dived in so well, and we've kind of navigated. I feel, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation, and I think what you've done is you've come at it from a point of, tell me why, I'm open, but let me just also see the risk, because there's too many people in this industry or people in the woo-woo world that just like, oh, just buy it. But I think there is an element where you're being so cautious. You're showing your viewers and your listeners the opportunities that are out there and letting them make their own decisions. So I feel like you have really kind of navigated this beautifully. It's amazing. And what it does also, Jill, is it's a reflection of the work that you've also done for yourself.
Thank you. Well, thank you. That's really touching. And it's something that I think it's just having gone through the pain myself and worked with you personally. And I just believe that when we really do the work, and it's not easy. But for me, it's just, it's I couldn't take it anymore at some point. You know, it's either you can just numb and self-medicate or find ways to avoid, or it's face the music. And the more I surrender and lean in, the easier and the smoother the ride is. And there's more bliss. And when I give up and I accept where I am, and I love what you said about failures or making mistakes. That is still probably one of my biggest barriers that I deal with is, oh yeah, I'm still sitting here talking about this light behind me. It's like, I can't get past this like window, you know, and I'm just like, let it go. It's not a big deal. I should have checked that before, you know? So it's like those little things, but how does that impact? Like, I'm going to use that as an example. How does that window, because I'm stuck on that, am I not fully present because I'm worried about that window, that someone may not be served because I wasn't present. And so to me, I have to let that go. I have to let things go. I have to surrender. I have to allow myself to make mistakes. I have to show up no matter what. And even when I know I'm maybe not looking good, feeling good, don't have all the answers, is that someone has the opportunity then to see themselves, and they have an opportunity to do something and to create something that they want for themselves.
You know, so here's the beauty of this, and I just want to flip this, is that we're always looking for our own imperfections. But what you don't see is how that light shone on your hair and actually gave you a radiant glow. And it gave you this beautiful glow behind, and it didn't even bother me, you know, and it didn't distract. And so and I think media has done this, and I know it happened for me in LA because of the TV show. We're so quick to look at our imperfections. You know, I'm constantly, whenever I'm standing in the mirror, looking at the imperfection of my hips and my legs. But reality is that I went, wow. And I looked at myself in the mirror recently, and it sounds pretentious, but I went, wow, I'm so proud of your weight loss journey, where you've gone, what you've done, Lisa. You've worked so hard at this. Stop looking at the imperfection. And that we're so caught up in the imperfection that actually our imperfections make us perfect for whoever needs to find us, because we become human.
Wow, that's beautiful. I was just saying that to someone, a friend of mine earlier on the phone, this very same thing, is she's wanting to start up something again. And I said, don't wait for it to be perfect. And because where you are now is where a lot of women are. And this need to, well, I used to be stronger. I used to be able to do more here, whatever it would be, is, it doesn't matter, because if we come, for me, I think thank you for the reminder. First of all, thank you for saying what you said. I want to acknowledge that. And also that it reminds me that if I'm perfect, then, or at least seemingly, then no one can relate. It's we need to see the vulnerable side. We need to see that we all have fears, that we all are dealing with the same things, and we're really all one. There is no separation. And so that was a beautiful reminder.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could give you that, but I think it's, you know, we try to be perfect, but life isn't perfect. And you know what? That's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And definitely everyone check out Lisa's programs and everything coming up that she has to offer. She's just simply divine. And she's been called to be here on this planet to change many, many lives, and for generations and many, many generations to come. So I appreciate you, and I love you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jill. Honestly, it's been amazing. And I'm so blessed to be doing this with you. So I appreciate you in so many ways.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And stay tuned for the next one. Stay connected and definitely share, subscribe, and like, and send some comments, and we can answer questions for you as well. All right. Take care.